everybody. My name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like. And if you didn't know, I am a writer. I've been writing ever since I was a little kid. It's all I ever wanted to do, and I actually ended up going to college to study English literature and creative writing. While there, I did do a little bit of fiction work, but mostly I worked on poetry. But since graduating in 2020, I've focused more on the fiction work, and I've actually self-published several books. You can see them over my shoulder here, and links to buy them are in the description if you're interested. But with all of that context out of the way, we can move on to the actual meat of this video, which is talking about all of the writing craft books that I own, because as a writer, I own quite a few, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about each one and why I have them, and just some fun things. So I own 8 books that are in the writing craft category, so why don't we just talk about them? So first up, I have a poetry handbook by Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver is a poet that I love, and so I got a copy of this a few years ago, and it is good. I feel like it has a lot of valuable information. I feel like, though, I would have gotten a lot more out of it had I read it before I already studied poetry in college and got a degree in creative writing, because it did feel a little bit basic in its instructions, and it was all things that I already knew from taking my college courses, but it is still very well crafted, I believe. And so if you are just beginning to get into writing poetry, this might be a very helpful book for you. Next, I have a classic, and that is Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. This is based on the books by Blake Snyder, who made the original Save the Cat ideology for screenplays, but this is a book that pretty much every writer, I feel like, has read at some point in their life. It just plots out some very helpful guidelines to structuring books, and I do still reference this to this day. I think I've read through it a couple of times, but mostly I just reference the beginning chapters, which deal with the overall general story structure and what this book refers to as a beat sheet. The bulk of the book is going into detail about specific types of stories, and so I do reference those occasionally if I'm working on one of those types of stories, but mostly I just look at the beat sheet and the chapter on character work. I feel like those are very helpful even to someone who's written and published several books at this point. There is a second version of this called Save the Cat Writes a Young Adult Novel, which I have not read, but I know several of my friends have, and they think that it is very good, and it does rehash a lot of this, but also includes some newer stuff, and of course has a focus on writing for a young adult audience. So if you are a YA writer, maybe check that one out. But this is very helpful, and it's quite plain to see why it is so beloved in the writing craft book world. Next, I have Writing Poetry, Creative and Critical Approaches by Chad Davidson and Gregory Fraser. This is a very beat up copy. You can see it's like stained and written on. I was actually gifted this by a mentor of sorts that I had in college, and she had gotten it secondhand, so that's why it's kind of very beat up. But this is, as you can tell, specifically about poetry, and I haven't actually looked through this a lot. Like, I've never read it cover to cover, but I've flipped through it and done some of the exercises in here, and I would like to continue doing that. I have taken kind of a sabbatical from writing poetry in the past couple of years because I did focus so intensely on it in college, and then I graduated college in 2020 and we had the whole pandemic thing, and it just I fell very hard into burnout, specifically with poetry, so while I've dabbled in it the past couple of years, I haven't fully focused on my poetry in quite some time, and I would like to return to it, and I think this might be a good help on that front. The next book on my list is The Transitive Vampire, a handbook of grammar for the innocent, the eager, and the doomed by Karen Elizabeth Gordon, and this is a grammar book, basically. It just explains English grammar, but it does so in a very strange way. It's called The Transitive Vampire. It does have a vampiric focus, but it's a lot of like creatures in general used as like examples and stories within this to explain English grammar, and it's just so fun and ridiculous, but also so helpful, especially because I do freelance editing, and so sometimes even I have to check back on certain grammar points to make sure I'm doing things correctly. And I feel like this is so well done. It's also illustrated. Hold on, let me show you something. So like, there's pictures, there's a really cool dragon, yeah. Like, I just love this. It's so fun and also useful, and I love when something can be more than one thing like that. Then I have Manga in Theory and Practice by Hirohiko Araki. He is the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I love manga. I read a ton of it. I don't think I would ever actually create my own manga, but I still thought this was a very fascinating read. I'm just not artistically inclined, we'll say. I'm not great at drawing, but I mean, I guess I wouldn't have to be. There are a lot of manga out there that are written and they illustrated by different people, but still, I don't think manga creation is in my future, but this was still something interesting to look through as someone who does read a lot of manga. It was cool to see the other side of it, like the creation side, so I did enjoy this book quite a bit. And the last 3 books I'm going to talk about together because they are all textbooks, technically, that I had from my time studying in college. So we've got The Creative Writer's Craft, Lessons in Poetry, Fiction, and Drama by a bunch of people: Rick Bailey, William Burns, Linda Denstadt, Claire Needham, and Nancy Ryan. We have Writing Fiction, A Guide to Narrative Craft, 9th edition, by Janet Burroway, Elizabeth Stuckley French, and Ned Stuckley French. And we have Wingbeats 2, Exercises and Practice in Poetry, edited by Scott Wigerman and David Meishin. I'm not actually sure how that's pronounced, but these are books that I had to get for classes, and so I've read through them in an academic sense, but I've never gone through, well, I flipped through them a little bit in my time since college, but I've never gone through seriously to look through them, but it is something that I really want to do. I feel like that could be interesting after so many years of since I graduated. It would be fun to look through all of these things and kind of remind myself of those years and all the things that I studied. I especially want to go back to this one, the Writing Fiction, because this one has short stories at the end of every chapter that kind of like illustrate the different points of each chapter, and especially my favorite short story of all time is in here, so I want to go back and look at that. I believe it was in the chapter for setting, but my favorite short story of all time is St. Lucy's Home for Girls Raised by Wolves by... who is that by? I feel so bad for forgetting. Karen Russell. So, yeah, I feel like going through these now would just be strange and fun and interesting. If you want to see me do a video of that, let me know. I think that might make an interesting video, but I won't make it if no one really wants to see it. But yeah, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. So here we have the 8 writing craft books that I own, covering a wide variety of topics and styles, I feel. I think it's a nice little eclectic collection, but I'm always open to expanding it. So definitely give me recommendations. I'm actually gonna put this down. Give me recommendations of any craft books that you've read and think would help round out my collection a little bit more. But we have now come to the end of this video. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.